Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Tuesday, October 21st, 2025. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. In today's episode, in our box office segment, we'll speak with Rebecca Rubin about the weekend at the Turnstiles and why this has been such a big year for horror. And we'll get ready for third quarter earnings season with business editor Todd Spangler running through some of the news that we can expect from Hollywood's biggest players, starting with Netflix's report coming later today. But before we get to that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. It's on. Warner Brothers Discovery has officially confirmed that it has received multiple offers to buy all or part of the company. There's been enough activity that WBD was forced to acknowledge it all in an SEC filing. The company said that for now it will proceed with the planned split of its cable networks from HBO and Warner Brothers Studios. But at this point, who knows what will happen? The only certainty is that Variety will cover it all in real time on Variety.com. The annual New York Game Awards will expand to a two-day event for the first time next year. They'll be held at the SVA Theater on January 17th and 18th, and all proceeds benefit the industry nonprofit Playing with Purpose. My colleague Jennifer Maz has the scoop. Disney has unveiled an expansive plan to celebrate the nation's 250th birthday. The Disney Celebrates America effort begins on Veterans Day next month and will extend through July 4th weekend, including a 24-hour multi-platform broadcast anchored by David Muir. It will air across Disney+, Hulu, ABC, ESPN, Freeform, FX, and National Geographic. Netflix is turning the board game Catan into a TV show. It's really fun to play with the group. Roy Lee of Vertigo Entertainment is shepherding the project along with creatives at the board game's publisher. All of these stories and so much more can be found on Variety.com right now. Now we turn to conversations with Variety journalists about news and trends in show business. The production of Daily Variety was derailed Monday morning by the massive outage at Amazon Web Services. So full disclosure, both of today's segments were intended to run on Monday. By the time our podcast publishing platform was back up and running mid-afternoon LA time, it just seemed like a better idea to start fresh today on Tuesday. The insights and analysis offered up by Rebecca and Todd are worth the wait. So now it's time to talk box office with Rebecca Rubin, our senior film and media reporter. This weekend, moviegoers answered the call of Black Phone 2 from the prolific Blumhouse genre label and Universal. Rebecca Rubin, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So, here we are in late October, and no surprise that a horror film is topping the box office. Rebecca, were you surprised by the performance of Black Phone 2?
I wouldn't say I was surprised. The opening was fairly in line with industry expectations. It ended up opening to $26.5 million, and that was just ahead of the original Black Phone, which launched with about $23 million in 2022. And what's interesting to me there is these films opened in very different box office landscapes, because the original film opened as theaters were still recovering from COVID. I wouldn't say movie going was at full strength. With that $23 million start, it opened in summer and it came in fourth place behind Elvis, Top Gun Maverick, and Jurassic World Dominion. So just to show you the competition at that time. This film, in contrast, we're in October, the height of spooky season when you'd expect a scary movie to come out, and $26.5 million, just a few million more, was enough to land in first place. So this movie didn't have a lot of competition. It's been a pretty slow October, and so while I think that any sequel that improves upon the last is usually counted as a win, it didn't have as much competition as the first film, and So I think it's a modest hit.
In terms of the Blumhouse of it all, this is a happy result after a couple of underperformers at the box office for this label that has had a strong streak for many years.
Blumhouse is best known for making these massive horror franchises at pretty low budgets, and so they end up being hugely profitable. They're behind Paranormal Activity, The Purge, the Halloween remakes, and they've been known as pretty consistent hit makers. This year, though, they've struggled a bit, and they've had a lot of movies come out. One was Wolfman that came out in January, Megan 2.0, which was a sequel to the breakout hit Megan, came out in June, and both of those films and a few others were pretty rejected by moviegoers.
Well, nobody bats 1,000. Their prolificness is definitely part of their brand. And of course, Jason Blum was just honored last week. He was so gracious. He was our first ever Master of Horror award winner. And we had a good time celebrating the world of horror. And so this is a good timing for him. But let me ask you about horror in general. I mean, 2025 has been a big box office year for horror.
Jason Blum was recently on the cover of Variety, and to his credit, he will own a miss. He is not one to shy away from admitting that a movie didn't do well, and he'll dissect why it might not have connected with audiences. And he noted that actually, Blumhouse aside, has been a really strong year for horror, a lot of original horror. And Warner Brothers has been responsible for movies like Weapons and Sinners that have just become breakout hits. And Comscore reported this morning that horror films at this point in 2025 have generated $1.2 billion, and that is a record for the genre. It broke a record that was set back in 2017 with $1.16 billion. And so it's really showing what strength this genre has theatrically and why people really, when they are choosing to go to theaters, they like to be in a communal setting to watch this kind of film.
There's something about getting scared together. Rebecca, what proportion does horror account for in the overall year to date box office tally?
So right now, the year-to-date box office tally is about $6.8 billion.
Does horror do well on the premium format screens that we've been talking about so much this year?
It depends on the film. The movies that really do well in the premium large formats are the action epics, big visual spectacles. And so a movie like Tron Ares that Disney released last weekend had a big number of the premium large formats. Even so, the movie did have a pretty significant 66% decline. It made about $11 million dollars in its second weekend. And so it's struggling a bit against its $180 million budget, but it is over-indexing on those premium formats, like you mentioned.
What else rounded out the top 5 or so of the box office?
Been a pretty weak October at the box office. Right now, the month is down 11% from the same point in 2024. So, not the strongest weekend, not the strongest month. But the other significant new release was Good Fortune, and that is a comedy that was directed by Aziz Ansari, in which he also stars alongside Keanu Reeves and Seth Rogen. Lionsgate released the movie. It's a comedy and it opened to $6.2 million. It's in line with expectations. It's not a great result for a movie that cost $30 million. But at the same time, comedy is just a genre that really has struggled theatrically against the rise of streaming. And it's not even that this movie was poorly received, it actually has pretty good reviews and audience scores. It's just that not enough people were incentivized to buy a ticket. And so it speaks to the struggles right now that comedy is facing more than it is the quality of the film.
Anything else about the box office or the performance of any films that stands out to you, Rebecca, this weekend?
After the Hunt, which is the film by Luca Guadagnino, stars Julia Roberts, Iowa Debris, and Andrew Garfield, expanded from limited release to nationwide theaters. It didn't really sustain a lot of traction while doing that. It opened in seventh place and it earned about $1.5 million from a little over 1,000 theaters. And so it's not a great result given the cast of this movie, the pedigree of a director like Luca Guadagnino. I think Amazon MGM, which is releasing the film, had a lot of expectations for this being an awards play. It's just not really getting the traction among moviegoers.
It's a surprise for a Julia Roberts picture, especially one that's been talked about. And of course, as we slide into award season, a lot of FYC hopes riding on a lot of these fall releases. Rebecca, as ever, thank you for talking us through this all.
Thanks for having me.
And now we'll get the lowdown from Variety business editor Todd Spangler on Q3 earnings season, which kicks off today with Netflix. It'll surely be a newsy cycle as there is so much activity in the air, from Disney's succession plans to David Ellison's first conference call outing with Wall Street as the CEO of Paramount Skydance. Comcast will no doubt talk about the NBA and the Versant spinoff. Then there's the swirl around Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery and potentially more consolidation. You need a scorecard to follow it all, and we can help with that. Go to Variety.com and sign up for our free weekly Strictly Business newsletter that always has a calendar of every earnings call and aggregates all of our earning coverage in one handy place, and it comes out on Friday. Check it out. Now, here's Todd. Todd Spangler, thanks for joining me.
Hello.
Well, here we are, Todd, on the cusp of another earnings season. What to expect from Netflix this time around? What do you think they'll be talking about?
So they no longer disclose subscriber numbers, which had really been the number that people focused on as a general indicator of their health, their growth, their trajectory over time. So now it's really about the revenue metrics. And what people are going to be looking at is engagement. If executives can really provide some color about how engagement is doing for Netflix, because you could look at it and say, okay, well, they're stopping reporting the subscriber numbers because they're starting to plateau on that. And so they want people to focus on other things, other levers that are growing, top line, bottom line. They're forecasting 17% growth on the top line and an operating margin of 31%.
Pretty damn enviable.
But the things that people are going to be looking for are, how is the ad business taking off for them? It's kind of been a slow burn for Netflix. They've not really talked a whole lot about how much of a difference it's making. So we'll be looking for signs about advertising for sure.
I will confess that I really thought Netflix was going to make the biggest swing for UFC to make it that natural companion with the WWE. So up next on October 30th is Comcast. Comcast right now is presumably in the final innings of the Versant spinoff of all the cable networks not named Bravo in the group. And I'm sure that's going to be some discussion. But what else do you think will be in the mix for Comcast?
I think they're going to be happily talking about the progress that they've made with Peacock. I think they feel that they've finally hit critical mass where Peacock can really hold its own against HBO Max and the Disney Plus Hulu bundle. I'm not totally sure that that's true, but they felt that they were in a strong enough position that they went to Apple and did a bundle deal, which is unusual.
Also, I'm guessing there will be a lot of questions about the NBA economics. They also have a lot of billions tied up in that for NBC and for Peacock. Okay, Todd, let's move on to Paramount, which is on November 10th. And we talked about, of course, David Ellison, I think, is going to be pressed on his UFC economics. It's so new. The company has still just come together in August, as we covered in depth. What do you think the initial focus of the analyst community is going to be for Ellison and Company when they host their first call as the owners of the publicly traded Paramount Skydance?
I think they're going to look for a baseline from which to measure the company's progress going forward. What the company's cost structure looks like now. Paramount is getting ready to lay off. We understand about 2,000 people domestically. This is the company and the leadership trying to show that they can do more with less and really make this machine a more efficient operation. So they're going to, explain what they've done and what they plan to do next.
Let's go to Disney. There is a lot going on at the Mouse House in this quarter and next. What are you most interested to hear?
So again, we were talking about how Netflix is no longer reporting subscriber numbers. This will be the last time they talk about numbers for Disney Plus and Hulu. So we're going to have to focus on something else to figure out how well they did during the quarter. Also, Disney this quarter introduced the standalone ESPN product. So expect to hear them talk more about that. And it's going to be early days, of course, to be able for them to talk about in detail, but they have a big picture here for the company. They've already talked about how they're essentially going to fold Hulu into Disney Plus. They're still going to sell them as separate products, or they'll be available that way. Some people might look at it and say it's the reinstantiation of the cable TV bundle on the streaming side of it, but the proof is in the numbers that they do get better results when they bundle these things together.
As you pointed out, the significance of the Peacock Apple TV deal is there does seem to be a coalescing understanding that bundled is in many cases better. All right, Todd, the last of the biggies is Warner Brothers Discovery, and once again, no shortage of swirl going on around them. What are you most interested to hear from David Zaslav and co?
It's going to be stuff he's not going to talk about, which is, are they really going to move to seriously negotiate with Paramount and Paramount's financial partners, or are they, going to bide their time here, go forward with a planned split and extract more value that way? So we'll see where the signposts lining up right now. And David Zaslav, of course, has been one of the biggest proponents of industry consolidation.
There's no shortage of activity and interesting things to watch for in these big companies that we cover. I think it will be telling to hear kind of the general macro commentary about the economy, the impact of tariffs, the impact of the big AI boom that we're hearing more about, but we're also seeing some real strong currents of skepticism about it all. Certainly, we will learn some stuff. Probably not everything we want to know, but some stuff. Todd, thank you as ever.
Thank you very much.
As we close out today's episode, here's a few things we're watching for. I cannot wait to watch the documentary Stiller and Mira, Nothing is Lost, which bows October 24th on Apple TV. It's the story of influential comedy duo Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira, as told by their son, Ben Stiller. Alan Cumming is set to host the AARP's Movies for Grown-Up Awards in Beverly Hills on January 10th. That should be so fun. Also, don't miss my colleague Jazz Tankey's great story on the making of the new animated short Versa by longtime Disney animator Malcolm Pierce. It's very touching and a reminder that art can help us heal. Before we go, congrats to Christina Wiltshire. She's been promoted to VP of A&R for Warner Chappell Music Nashville. She's been with the music publishing giant since 2019. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton, with contributions from Rebecca Rubin and Todd Spangler. Sticks, Nicks, Hick Picks. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice, and please tune in tomorrow for another episode of Daily Variety.